See, you look at it, size like that. Yeah. Good. It's not it.
They made me do it first.
They do?
That's funny.
Picture John's a karaoke kid.
No, just use the trip or something.
Right now, we're doing that first.
I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
First one.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will ask the newly elected board members to read their oaths. We'll start with Rose. You have it in front of you.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, the duties of the position of school board member.
Thank you. Mr. Amar?
I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, the duties of the position of school board member.
Thank you. Ms. Rutledge?
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, the duties of the position of school board member.
Thank you. Do we have any nominations for board president?
Rose?
Second. Any other nominations? A motion is needed to elect Rose as the president. Kathy. Mr. Hummer. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Get to work. Does she say yes?
I have your,
She voted for
your oath.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Let me move on my
Okay.
stuff. Be right there. Be right there, Mom.
I'll help you. I'll get that.
All right. I'm just touching my teacher.
Okay, press.
I don't do that. Would you be addicted?
Yes.
All right.
Sign this first. About flip phones. Don't you flip phones, Brian? Brian's got flip phones. Is it true? We just talked about flip phones.
Right, congratulations. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, the duties of the position of school board president.
Turning the meeting over to you.
All right, I will open the floor for nominations for vice president. Mike,
Kathy?
you have a second? Jackie, any other nominations? Motion to close nominations? Mike Christie, and then I need a motion to elect Kathy as our vice president. Mike, Jackie, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Good job, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you both.
I do have something though for Rose, just in case you get out of hand. Yes, this-
How'd you find that, Kathy?
Does he make noise?
It does.
Oh, yeah!
It's law and order.
That's fantastic.
I love that. Where did you find that?
Can't get at her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, the duties of the position of School Board Vice President.
Okay, so do I need a motion to table 6 until he gets here? Yes. All right, can I have a motion to table item 6 to the end of this part of the meeting? Jackie, Christie, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Motion for number 7, I need to have Superintendent Dr. Bressler administer a oath.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, the duties of the position of Superintendent of Schools.
Okay. Item 8. So it seems that we can have a plethora of these folks since Brian and I don't count. Are we interpreting that correct, Brian?
I think so.
Yes. So, and we believe that Jackie is going to be the BOCES split. So we need.
Can we change the delegate at some point?
If
They can retire.
Or one
and then
resigns,
Someone
or-
else, yeah.
I guess there's what I'm curious about is if Jackie doesn't successfully become the BOCES
Oh, then,
delegate.
right. So the only other thing I was wondering is, so the BOCES delegate was Anthony Sinecor last year. So that it
And
wasn't
they
just
never
that,
replaced
and they
him.
never replaced him, they just left the seat open, even his presidency, right, for the rest of the year. Well, Wendy, I guess, stepped into his position just to do the duties, but
Right.
I don't know if that's just lack of, so, the school board's doing things? You know, like, should they have, would you?
Yeah, they should have.
Right, so,
But you have a feeling that you will be that or the alternate? So then we would need a rep and an alternate from the 6 of you that remain. Or 5 tonight. Because Brian and I don't count,
especially the alternate.
Can I have 2
even though we're
clarifications?
there. Sure.
Are you voting members, you and Brian, or not voting?
No.
We're not.
Okay. Next was this the position that Dr. Hilton used to have?
So that's what I do.
No,
That's what you
that's
do.
what she would do.
That's
Okay.
BOCES.
This is
This is
just
the county
being
school
a
board
delegate for
association.
the school board association, like, you know how Brian sits in on that
Gotcha.
12-hour resolution thing every year?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a couple of the meetings throughout the year.
Yeah, that's, the NISBA thing is separate.
That's-
That's separate.
But the short version is Rose and I are officers, which means we don't count as holding seats.
Right. The reason I asked is that it just historically, we did have people resign to the other position. That's what I was trying to clarify in my mind. And we appointed mid-year. That's what I was trying to clarify.
Yeah, I don't know if we can do that now. That's kind of what I'm asking too.
That's what your question was.
Well, I mean, if the person wants to resign and doesn't want to do it anymore, we can't like, hold them hostage to it.
But that doesn't necessarily give us the ability to fill the seat after the person resigns. That would be up to that board as to how to fill that seat, right?
They probably have something in the bylaws that addresses that, I would assume.
You would think, but judging by the last meeting, it doesn't sound like the bylaws are all that
Tight,
specific.
yeah, they have to be tightened up. I would think that'd be something we could add in, or the,
The mayor.
probably, down the road.
So what specifically is it the organization doing at this point? I mean, it sounds like they're more active than they were
Right.
when I
Yes.
was on for
It's
several
still like
years.
possibly a meeting every other month, right?
Sounded like it, yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing they do is the awards dinner in the fall.
Right.
That's the biggest thing they do. But we're trying to get some
And
legislative.
then it's usually
advocacy.
dinner meetings throughout the year with a,
Right, yeah.
The idea is also to try to get a little more legislative influence.
right.
And if it's through that board, I think it's gonna get a little better received, you know what I mean? Because we're collectively
Yeah, because when I did it, I don't know, 3 years or something, there wasn't a whole lot of that, that's for
No.
sure. You know, you went, you talked about we're having the dinner, where are we gonna do it, what we have in our budget, and let's all go home, more or less. So
Yeah.
I would think there needs to be some more substantial kind of discussion at a meeting. I mean, why can't, I remember we had one meeting where actually there were school board members invited, and we really had some really good discussions. I don't know if you attended that, but, you know, there were questions raised and people talked among one another, much like you do, I guess, at the superintendent's meeting about issues that people felt were important and what they might do, you know, so I just think hopefully it's a more active organization than it used to be. And the dinner's fine, the dinner's great.
All right, so, with that said, we need to have a representative and an alternate nominated. Does anyone have a driving interest for those spots?
I'll do the alternate.
Who is the alternate?
I'll do the alternate.
Who else wants another meeting every other month? Come on. This is where I need a Jeopardy music. Maybe Matt?
Well, we should put him in. Hey, I think you should.
You ever said I think
I'm not saying
that. Are we hosting this year?
You have to still give a dinner this year. Is it our turn again?
I don't know, we haven't had a.
We haven't done one.
I think they're all to be
We've done
determined
two.
on the
We've done
calendar,
two since I've been on board.
right? I think they're all to be determined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they haven't asked us yet.
All right, anyone else?
Yeah, which is, right, it says two.
It's like Kathy said.
She's the alternate.
For who?
That's the burning question. So it's
Jen?
too much, I can't do that.
Rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, no.
What's that? It's just that I have so much after school, like your meetings, another big meeting.
Is that a yes?
So Kathy taking on with the alternate.
Well, we can work that out.
Yeah.
We can work that
Just one
out.
of you has to be there.
All right.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so I need a motion to appoint Mike Elmauer as the Sullivan County School Board Association Executive Committee rep. And
Your wife's gonna kill you.
I'm willing to
Kathy
do that.
Meckel is the alternate rep.
I'm willing to motion that.
26 school year. All
I'll
right,
motion that.
so who's got the motion?
I got the motion.
Katrina, Jackie, all in favor? Opposed? I thought Mike was crazy. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And there really could be 5 of us at this meeting, possibly. But
So-
only you guys get to vote, only one of you gets to vote.
So we go to this meeting amongst all school boards in the county? and
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually the officers, delegates, superintendents, board presidents. This is the schedule if you want to take a picture of it, just to have some dates.
The alternates
In line.
still attend, they just don't vote unless the delegate's not there. Which means at this point, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the room.
Should have a voice.
That's right. We gonna make
Oh, we
changes.
certainly will. All right, thank you.
All right. On to 9, a motion to appoint as the New York State School Board Association Advocacy Liaison for the 25-26 school year. We've not done this before, right? This is new.
Brian,
This is new.
Brian,
I think Brian,
Yeah, we didn't-
Brian is a prime
We didn't know
candidate for
it
that.
existed.
So all of you have this,
Right.
and it just goes over the role.
Well, I know someone over here. Wants to nominate them.
I can nominate Brian.
Will you accept that nomination, right? All right, that was second. Mike, all right. Brian gets
What title to what he's already.
He's gonna
all
be-
in favor?
Oh, this,
Yeah.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ryan of many hats. We're gonna have to get you like different hats to wear. All right. Number 10, motion to appoint Christina Couts as the district clerk for the 25-26 school year. And do I need one person second for that? All right, Jackie. Mike. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Couts, will you take your oath?
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, the duties of the position of district clerk.
All right, now we have a consent agenda for items 2 through 42. Are there any that you would like to have pulled out for some great debate and discussion?
Number 7, just a question, do you have to wait for that?
Yeah, the shared review.
42, I'd like to take out.
The last one.
Any others besides 42? So can I have a motion for consent agenda 2 through 41? Christie, Jen, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. For 42, a motion to designate the following board meeting dates. They're listed there. Your motion, Jen, Christie. I have a problem with the 19th. My daughter's getting married that day in Florida, so I won't be here. Which
February 19th.
February 19th. So I was wondering if maybe there's an alternate date we could look at.
As her teacher, I think I should go. I was her
It'd be
teacher.
lovely in Florida
Yes.
in February.
That's how I met Rose.
The 18th is a Wednesday. Oh, you probably won't be
Yeah,
able to do it right on top
When
of
do you leave?
26th?
26th, I'll
The
be back.
26th, you have strategic, so the 25th and 26th are your strategic nights, and you could double it up if you want.
Have the board meeting at 7?
Can you
Do
do
you guys like to double up it?
Strategic at 6 maybe, and then.
Is that gonna fit in there? That's not gonna run over?
Are we doing the same format last year where we had the high school one night and the elementary the other
Yes,
night?
and that's no, that's,
Not what we did?
I have something else on my calendar, actually. I have family teacher night at the high school for February 26th.
Well, you're doing strategic planning too. Good luck with that.
I didn't get the.
Your teacher conferences.
Is there school on February 12th?
Or we could do the 25th as well.
The 12th is fine for me. I'm not going down there that early. Though that'd be nice to go that early.
I can do that too.
Does the 12th work? Does the 12th work for you guys?
So February 19th is not February 12th.
Do it
February
on 14th.
12th. Is that okay? Yep. I thank you for that. That's the only date I have like in my head frozen that I cannot miss in my
She's
life.
getting married on a Thursday?
Huh?
Thursday night?
Well, that's the rehearsal and then it's the next day. You need, I kind of have to time.
Yes, I think so.
February what, is our final day?
12.
12.
Okay. All right. Any other dates people know they have issues with? Since we're,
Yeah, how we do this.
pardon?
She has to ask a question, something, a question, how we do this.
I can't hear
There's a
you.
motion
There's a motion to
on
change
this.
it.
Oh,
Right, to amend it. But are there any other dates that are in
Are
question?
these
right
all
now?
Wednesdays and Tuesdays?
They're all
Thursdays,
Thursdays.
Yeah, the
So
Wednesdays.
August 20th, and May is always a Wednesday, so that's the budget vote. April 21 and 28 are Tuesdays, because that's BOCES, and we have to adopt the budget.
Okay.
Any other dates? All right, so, we have a motion on the floor So I need a motion to say no to that and then amend. So Jackie, a motion to, well, no, everyone has to vote no on what we have out here right now. So, if you want to. So all in favor of the current slate that doesn't change February 19th? So all not in favor? All right, yeah, so that motion fails. Now I need a motion to amend number 42 to the following dates, all the same except February 19th becomes February 12th. Jackie, Kathy, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, too much Robert rules in there. Reorg.
Yeah.
All right, do we have to take a break and go right on?
Go right in.
Okay. Except we have to maybe come back with Sam.
Yeah, do you have to adjourn it?
Yep.
Oh,
Oh, is there a adjourn on here?
Yeah.
No, you can just continue.
So we
to-
vote
No,
on
you
the
just
next
go right in.
meeting immediately following. What?
The consent agenda. I don't think-
Yeah, we did.
We did?
Yeah.
yeah, we just.
Yeah, we voted on one.
Everyone
Yeah,
except for 41.
Yeah, 41.
Yep.
You said it.
We did, we did. We did, because I voted for it.
Okay.
So can you move this up, but this, you can't move this from here to put it on here if you can't?
Yeah, we can amend it.
Okay,
So
that's
it says
fine.
accept the agenda, you can say amend the agenda, but I don't know the rest.
Okay, but we could then put it on the next one?
Does he
Yeah.
have his number to see if he's coming?
No, he said he was going to initially, so I'm not sure. But you know, it's been
Well, you
summer
could
and a
table
couple
it to
weeks,
the next
right?
meeting.
So-
That's what I'm asking.
Right.
Yes, you can table it to the next one.
All right.
Sorry, I missed the question.
I was trying to say if it could come to this, now that we're in the regular meeting.
Yes, you can table it to the regular meeting.
Yeah.
You just have to vote on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to move on? All right, I need a motion, item 1, to accept the agenda as submitted. Jackie. Mike, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held last school year, June 18th, 2025, as submitted. Kathy, Mike, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Item 3, Board of Education public comments.
Is that what you made eyes for?
Yeah.
Nothing on the picture, it's just.
Does anybody want to be?
Okay. Item 2, appoint the Board of Education committees. You should have that list in front of you, board members. Look it over. Are you still okay with them, the way they are? All right, can I have a motion to appoint the Board of Education committees for this school year? Mike, Jen, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, the second reading of policy 7316, which is the use of internet-enabled devices during the school day. I need a motion upon the recommendation of Superintendent Dr. Bresser to conduct the second reading of the following policy. Jen, Christie, any discussion on this as it is current in its current form?
I just want to say we did have another committee meeting actually right prior to this meeting, and we received good feedback. This was like parents, stakeholders, community members, board members. And so we are looking to adopt this, but we know that we may streamline some of that language as the year progresses. So remember, we left it broad, so I just want to say it's still in that broad state, but we will be able to, once we have our set plan.
Okay, all in favor of the second reading? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, motion upon the recommendation of Dr. Bressler to adopt the following policies: 7316, the use of internet-enabled devices during the school day. Jen, Katrina, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, a motion to adopt upon the recommendation of Superintendent Dr. Bresser, the attached wellness plan K-12 for the 25-26 school year with looks like this. Any motion? Jen, Mike, discussion?
I just want to thank Kayla Odell, who, as an administrative intern, put significant work in bringing this back to life, as well as working with Ms. Deeds and Mr. Bunhagen, but the driving force of her internship produced some wonderful work here, and we appreciate your help on this. Thank you.
Any questions?
I just had some questions. So, is our plan, I think this is great, is our plan to continue to sell both in the high school and elementary, the salad bar? I know that was a big problem last year, having the salad bar. And I know that a lot of kids, we wanted that. That was such a big push that it'd be available, and I know due to staffing, sometimes it was not. So is that something we are working to make sure that it is offered in both schools?
We are trying our hardest to make the salad bar available. We do have staffing issues, and it is a lot of work, and when we are short-staffed, it's very difficult to maintain the salad bar, and in the elementary school especially, we have to oversee it and make sure the kids are, not contaminating anything. So it is our very high priority, but unfortunately, when we are that short-staffed, it's one of the first things that we have to sacrifice because we have to keep the whole rest of the kitchen operating. But we have been reviewing more applications. We had a couple new hires at the end of last year. So we're really working, it's like a really huge priority for us. We're trying very hard.
And I would say, I don't know, am I allowed to just comment about how it goes? I could say in public comment if you want, or see me after.
So even if there's, and again, I don't think that when you're going to be short-staffed, and you know that there are, I don't know that there's any made that kids can grab and
They
go.
usually do have, at the high school definitely they have the grab-and-go salads.
At the elementary school, they don't though.
They have some, but
But not-
they don't have as many. And honestly, a lot of kids don't ask for them.
Okay.
And I have witnessed the salad bar. I mean, we do have to kind of encourage the kids a little more because sometimes they just take lettuce.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's almost like.
It's the educational part
Right,
of
of course.
what to
And
add
we
to
don't
it,
want to
yeah.
make a whole bunch of pre-made salads because again, when we're short-staffed first thing in the morning and that person falls out or two people fall out, we still have to make the salads or select the salad bar. So either way, it's still a lot of work, but we always try our hardest to keep the salad bar open, even if we had to modify it a little bit. And we're spread so thin, sometimes we have the people in the kitchen are jumping back and forth just to make sure we have that salad bar available. So it's not like we just don't, we're not offering it, it's just sometimes just a matter of what happens in the morning.
And I do see the stuff about enable sampling and tasting of healthy food choices, whoever put that, that's great in classrooms and kitchens. I've said before, I think that is such a great thing to involve the kids in, like when we've done stuff with like the single bite and stuff like that. I think exposing kids to foods that maybe they wouldn't normally eat because it's maybe not something they're offered at home or it sounds weird or looks weird because kids are big on that. I think that that's great, and if we can bring more of the fresh foods and our locally grown stuff in, because sometimes those look great, those meals, and then some of the other stuff is I'm like, is this really such a good option for us to be feeding the kids? Some of the lunch choices, I know some people complain about breakfast, but I'm like, breakfast a lot of kids eat. As where if you're giving a kid some other like mixed up chili, and I'm like, you're gonna get a lot of kids to eat breakfast where maybe that kid's not gonna eat today because we're serving something that maybe a quarter of the students here eat. As where you have 75 to 80% that would actually eat another meal where we could provide those things. And those are things like I think about if we're giving meals, especially to kids, maybe these are the only meals they can have, and maybe they're not getting dinner, that we're providing food that kids are going to eat and that we're giving them all the things that they need in those meals. So, and not like, yeah, I have to serve you peas, but I know you don't eat them and they're gonna end up in the trash, but I still have to put them on your plate, kind of stuff, So, but no, this is great.
This is only a question. Is the elementary salad bar, is it short enough for our students?
We need to shorten our plate.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
so they can see what's in there.
It's so short that I have a hard time getting
Okay.
it myself.
I would like to say that whenever somebody does complain about the look and the use of food, Claudia goes down immediately and taste tests it. She gets it every single time. So if somebody makes a complaint, she goes and she gets the lunch. And sometimes we're like, what are you eating? Someone made a complaint, so I'm getting lunch today.
And then we have learned, there are a couple things that don't come out looking as, as desirable on the dish, and no matter how healthy it is, and no matter what farm locally it comes from, we're like, forget it. If kids aren't gonna eat it, we're not gonna spend the money, and we won't wanna limit them to just that. If it's like
something that doesn't look very appetizing. And we've learned that. We've had talks about it. I've tasted a lot of things that I don't normally eat. And a lot of
The kids appreciate that. And like I said, and I know our food is sometimes made somewhere, is made in the high school, correct, and brought over. So again, what travels well? You know what I mean? When I lit up food, as we all know, if there's moisture building on a hot item, it's gonna change the way that it looks, right? The texture of the food changes. So I think those are all things to take into account. And kids are big on appearance. If it doesn't look great,
They're not even gonna try.
they're not even gonna try it. So we need to feed them things that they're going to eat. They present well, they hold well from one building to the other, because again, not every kid gets to eat dinner when they go home. So, thank you.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, the NISBA proposed resolutions and amendments. Am I missing any of that? Oh, this is just Right, so that's these items, yeah. So this is the point where you can discuss them. There's 3 of them.
These are 3 that Massapequa approved. They emailed them to me on graduation day, so it was a little short notice. And they signed on to ours. Do you have a count of who all has signed on to ours? Do you have a count of like who has actually signed on to ours? So I know what happened.
I can go back through the chain.
Because there's quite a few. But I got an email before that Locust Valley, and I tried to get some clarification, they're submitting one similar to ours. We were submitting a similar resolution to Sullivan West, and I wrote back and said, what does similar mean? And I haven't got an answer yet. So they didn't necessarily sign on to ours. But Massapequa did. These are their 3 that they're putting forward.
Hey, of these 3, are there any you would not want us to sign on to?
Anyone in the county other than Eldred sign on to ours?
I'm sorry, the air is blowing in my ear.
Did anyone other than Eldred sign on to ours in the county?
I think Liberty. No, OCs.
But to be fair, people reading them, are they given them to see? You sent them to all the districts, right?
I did.
You know what I mean, just.
Yeah, it's all on their clerk to show it to them all.
Right, exactly, that's it.
I like that. I'm all for it. I like the last one.
The last one, definitely.
What's the last one?
It's about the
Academic.
curriculum.
That they're not filtered.
About
Yeah, the academics and whole, I understand.
yeah. Getting back to teaching.
All right, let's move on to 7. A motion to approve the attached proposed resolutions and amendments and direct the district clerk to submit the proposed resolutions to the New York State School Boards Association. Jackie, Mike, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, administrative reports. Ooh, a little out of order, but
It's, because we
yes,
discussed
yep.
this needs may after a report or a 3-hour show.
Okay, so the business office.
Do we need a microphone?
Oh, sorry.
You're gonna
I don't know
knock
which
his
one
thing.
is.
Kathleen, just pull his name tag up. There you go, sliding off the thing.
Okay, so right now, in the business office, we are operating in 2 years because we're closing out last year and we also rolled into this year. So we have a lot going on, we're very busy. We just closed on our van on the 25th of June and we paid for the maturing van on the 20th. No, we've got the new van on the 25th and we paid the old one on the 26th. Sorry. We're reviewing right now last year's purchase orders and invoices so that we can declare all our carryovers and our payables for this year and close our books so that we're ready for the audit and the financial statements. We're reviewing and issuing purchase orders for this current year, and we are checking everything very closely to make sure everything's coded correctly so it aligns with our budget. And we're wrapping that up soon so that we get everybody's orders in and then can have everything for the beginning of the school year. We're reviewing new contracts and all those other purchase orders as well. Lots of changes this year. We reorganized a lot of the processes in the business office this year, so it's like our first new year with all our new processes in place, and we're hoping that kind of helps us streamline all of our workflow and make everything more efficient. We're working with a couple other departments in the district to revamp our facility use form because we want to make sure that there's no liability on the district, so we're putting in some hold harmless wording and some risk transfer wording, and so once we get that finalized, we're going to hopefully ship it off to our attorney. So that's just like a big project that involves everybody. We hired a new tax collector, and she's got a lot of energy and some good ideas, so we're really looking forward to working with her starting this summer. And that's it. We're very busy, we're very productive right now, and we're very appreciative for the quiet building. And we're just getting stuff done.
Great, any questions? All right, moving on to item 2, Dr. Bressner's report.
Hi, first of all, I want to welcome Mrs. Buck, our new elementary principal, joining us this evening. Her and Mr. Vogler started off right away, July 1. They have been diving into their work, very busy. It's really great to have, the positive energy around the office, even when it is pretty quiet during the summer. Couple things, I will flash back to graduation. The previous Friday night was graduation. It was really a beautiful ceremony. I did want to publicly thank Mr. Eggleton for his planning and preparations to ensure that everything ran smoothly. Thank you to our facilities team. We did switch to indoors, but the weather was so kind of miserable out that I think most people were fine with that. And I thought everything was well organized and it went smooth and it was really a great celebration. So really all of their hard work certainly paid off. Title funding. I don't know if people have seen in the news that our U.S. Department of Education has recently informed states, including New York, that it is reviewing all the federal title funds. They will not be issuing grant or notifications for those funds. Right now, how this is affecting Sullivan West is that we are in the process of writing grants for the 25-26 school year, and we are only received an allocation for Title I. We do apply to 2 other grants. So Title I primarily funds AIS and student support services. Title II supports teachers with professional development coaching, and Title IV is like a community connection, and we use that to support our SROs in our schools. So currently for the Title I allocation, that came in about $50,000 less than usual. Title II is around $40,000, and Title IV is usually around $25,000. So at this point in time, we do not have that $115,000. They're saying they're going to review it. The federal government does not have a date or timeline on when the review is going to occur. However, when we were budgeting, we did anticipate that something like this could happen. So we certainly, through that process, made sure that we were allocating funds in the event that this grant money did not come through. It still means that even though we have money to cover this, it just makes the start off just a little bit tighter in that instructional programming. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. We'll keep the board informed as that plays out, and we meet throughout the year. But good budgeting, so this isn't catching us too off guard. Hopefully it will be resolved, but we shall see on that. Finally, if you haven't been over to the high school or even here during the day, there is significant construction happening. All hands on deck. At the secondary school, they're working on the roof, the library, the cafeteria, the band room, the PE storage, most notably the parking lot and the sidewalk areas.
At the elementary school, they're already working on the nurse's office suite, pre-K rooms, finishing the windows. I saw them today, in fact, upstairs finishing the windows, and prepping for the HVAC work and some electrical work for the emergency lighting. With that being said, we put out a notice to the community today, and even with our staff, if you are coming to school buildings, please call. We will let you know where to park. The high school, they're trying to rotate so that we do have one place to come in, but there is a lot going on, so we would appreciate if anybody is coming to the buildings, please just reach out ahead of time so we can say, park here, we know you're coming. And of course, administrators are taking their vacation at this time, so you would want an appointment if that's why you're coming in. But if it's even staff coming in, your main offices will know if classrooms are open, and I would give it time because there's a lot going on, especially at the high school. And then the last thing I will say is that despite the construction here at the elementary school, we were able to kick off our elementary school extended school year program. So summer school, and it's very exciting to have classes running here during the summer. And with Ms. Prugi's diligence, communicating with other schools, we were able to open that up, and we do have 12 students that are attending from other districts. So, and it's going very well so far. So, thank you for that. As far as the construction, the one last thing I would say is that our CS Arch will be at the August meeting at that time to give a complete overview of the updates. They have weekly construction meetings every Tuesday. And I saw the construction managers today, I saw the architect yesterday, so they are on site, they're here, and any questions that the board may have on that, let me know and I'll see if I can reach out and get answered. You can ask me.
Is Pella here?
Yes. Yep, they are here.
They're staying now, right?
They're staying until it's done.
I got them chained in the basement somewhere.
That's what I'm here. I haven't heard any different. But we'll go over and open those windows before they leave.
Oh, yeah. Every one of them.
Everyone? That's right. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs., if there's any more questions. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Moots, who, in Mr. Eggleton's absence, is going to be presenting the most recent Regents and the advanced placement test results came in today. So I know you received the presentation ahead of time, but there will be AP results that just came in today off the classes that she was able to add.
Yeah, so I'm happy to be here tonight, I guess in place of Mr. Eggleton, but I'm happy to do this because I had a great deal of time and heart invested into testing this year at the high school, taking over kind of the administration of the regions, and not as much with the AP. Chris Carroll was very kind to me and kind of easing me into the testing at the secondary level. So before I start, I just want to thank our guidance team, Amanda Ball, Christine Carroll, have been hugely helpful in getting me all of the reports that I need. Gabby Gardner is a wealth of information. I don't know if you've been on any of these deep, dark sites where they keep this data, but it is sometimes very difficult to navigate and get exactly what you're looking for, but they have been really great in helping me get the reports that I need so that I can give you some of this information tonight. Just keep in mind that this is an aerial view of the testing. When looking at some of these results, you're gonna have more questions than probably answers, as I have and our guidance team has and our teachers will have when they receive the data as well. So I'm gonna go through it. This may look different than what you saw last year. In talking to Dr. Bressler, got a couple ideas of maybe things that were not answered last year, might have been helpful to know. Information like the number of students versus just the percentage, those types of things. So I hope that you find it useful. If you have questions throughout, you can let me know, interrupt me, and I can answer them to the best of my ability or answer them at the end. And if I don't have an answer, I am prepared to take some notes and then follow up with anything that we were not able to answer today. Am I using this? Yeah? Okay. So the breakdown here, which again is different than last year, is I show you the total enrolled in the course, students that took the exam and passed in January, our students that took it in June, and then the results of the June regions. So you'll see right there across the top for the ELA, there was an 88% pass rate with, that's 49 students. And then the mastery, which is a score of 85 or higher, was 48% with 27 students. Dropping down to global history there, we have 95% of our students that were proficient at the 65 or higher. And I'll just note too, some of our students have IEPs and 504s that deem a low score pass. So they're actually included in the proficiency percentage because according to their plan, anything 55 or higher is a passing score for them. So they're included in that number as well. And then our mastery was 48% with 41 students. That's actually an increase from last year, which was only 35%. And then the last one there, 96%, which was 51 students. And then we had an increase from 24% to the 32% for mastery. So that's ELA and our 2 history regions. Moving on to math. So Algebra 1, which is causing all the buzz, we had an overall 88%, which is a decrease for us. We were 94% last year, so a 6% drop, with 16% of those students having the mastery of the 85 or higher. For geometry, this was a new exam for us this year, and we were actually part of a scoring project with Pearson. So 88% of our students, again, that's a decrease from 95. And our mastery did increase slightly though to 19, that was 17% last year. And then Algebra 2, our kids killed it, 100% proficiency, that's an increase from 96 last year. And overall mastery is an increase from 24 to the 30 that we have there. Yes?
What was the difference in the testing between geometry?
So we took the new geometry test that is being offered. So they're phasing out an old and bringing in the new. So we are part of the scoring project and the new test that was presented by Pearson.
They took it in June, just like the other one from last year.
What was the score in order to just pass? Like at 85 points, what did they need to just pass?
So
65.
So this, you mean the scaled?
It's 29 points.
So it was out of 80, it was out of 82.
Okay, 82.
It was out of 82, yeah, the scaled score was out of 82.
And what did they need to pass?
So this,
82.
so it was still the same, so the 65 or higher is passing unless they have a plan that deemed the 55. But it was still 65 to pass, and then 85.
Yeah, there's a curve. It's
Yeah,
29
there's a curve.
points. It's 29 points on it.
So yes,
It's
we
29
did
points on the
get
average.
raw scores on the geometry, and then they were scaled, and then we had a final score from Pearson.
Okay.
I have the conversion chart. It's online, but I do have our students' scores that are scaled.
Can
from
you
that
send
too.
those to me then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I share them?
Yep. Yes, but the conversion chart's available online, but I have our specific scores for that.
Okay.
Any other
Not
questions?
related to the scores, but the significant decrease in our Algebra 2 test takers from Algebra 1. Is there some trend, like is that lower than usual?
So I can look, I have last year's, presentation. Last year, 26 students took Algebra 2. So I'm assuming that's consistent?
Yeah, it's usually, it's just a couple of classes, like 2 to 3 sections, usually 2. That's typical. You'll see it fade down.
Oh, yeah.
There's also other level classes that after geometry they would take, like,
Right.
stats or.
Correct. Right, but yeah, so it was 26 last year, so pretty on.
And what was the year before, do we know what the year before? So if last year they were at 94, we're down to 84. Is it going up and down? Does it just depend on the class?
So I think a couple of different things. So I had talked to Dr. Bressler about this. Now that, I kind of have this in my hands, I would like to look at 3 to 5 year trends and cohorts of kids. So really, when you're looking at these scores, you want to look at the kids consistently over time rather than just the exam, because sometimes there's cohorts of kids that just perform in a certain manner, I guess. So I would like to look at those students over time, that as they move from Algebra 1 to geometry, like do they perform in a similar fashion? And then in addition to that, look at the test, you know, like obviously Algebra 1 has a really bad reputation right now as being a very difficult test.
It was difficult this year. I felt bad for the kids, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's not surprised that.
No, because
that it
there were
went
3
down.
questions on there that would have normally been on an Algebra 2,
Right.
and it sat in an Algebra 1. So your lower end kids didn't score, you know, they didn't get the 65 because, you know, they couldn't, you know, those 3 questions right there is 15 points. You know, so it was a 6-point question that they gave them, and the other one was a 4-point question. So it was a lot on them in Algebra 1. So I understand if there was a decrease, you know what I mean, in a sense, because the test was difficult.
I just want to make sure it's not like.
Yeah, and I can say that.
Right, that it doesn't continue to trend that way, of course. Yeah, I think that's ultimately our goal too, is to see really how many students that's, you know, the 94 was how many students versus, because these are different numbers of kids testing also, which makes it a little complicated sometimes to compare the numbers. But yeah, so that's math, and then this is our science. So living environment, we had a decrease. This is probably our most significant decrease from a 94% to an 82%. This was a first year teacher with us. So we're working on some of that curriculum lead stuff with her and having, you know, some support in that area. We did, and our mastery also decreased from 46% last year to 31% this year. You know, I've had some conversations too with Ms. Peruki about some of our special ed students who are self-contained for ELA and math, but then push into inclusion classes for living environment. You know, does that impact it? The fact that they're not in a smaller setting with less students, but mainstreamed for those courses. So just, again, some conversations to have, to watch out for, to kind of, you know, give more support to that living environment teacher so that we can see that increase. Earth science, last year we were at 89% pass, this year 95%. Last year 41% mastery, this year 58% mastery. Chemistry was our significant increase. We were at 39% for pass rate last year, this year 75%. And our mastery went from 3% to 14%. And then physics, really small group of students taking physics there. Last year it was 10 students, this year it's 6 students. We went from a 90% last year to 66, but our mastery went from 40 to 50. Again, such a small group of students that it's really hard to kind of pinpoint some of those things when you're looking at just a group of six students taking a test.
But chemistry, like I'd say physics is probably skewed because there's hardly anybody taking it. But chemistry, I'll be the guy who says the glass is quarter empty. But 25% of our kids are not passing that test.
Right, so this was like a huge undertaking in taking on chemistry this year. And going from last year, as far as I'm concerned, there was a little bit of a situation with the instructor that was resolved this year by having Mr. Svoboda take that over. You know, so again, I think it's important to note the increase and the potential for that to continue to trend in that direction. So what did we do this year? What else can we do next year to help support that in our review classes and those types of things with our students when we get closer to the regions?
And with physics, how much are we making sure the kids are taking the appropriate math before they get to some of these classes where
So like the
they're very math
prerequisites?
intensive?
Yeah.
Right. Like if you just walk into physics, but you haven't had basic math that you need to take physics before you take physics.
You kind of need
There are
that too.
prerequisites listed in the course selection guide.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what the math
It's algebra
required is,
two.
but I'm sure we can get that to you.
It's algebra too, they need, yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, not just
But are
taking.
they
Right,
but
you're doing
well.
Are we making sure they're taking it? Is the, I think,
I think that got changed.
Well, also the performance in those math classes.
Right.
If you had a kid who struggled at the math that they need to take physics, and then you put them in the physics class, and they haven't done the math to the appropriate level, you're kind of setting them up for failure.
So
Because they're
the
not
thing
going to
is,
be able to, you know what I'm saying?
we're open enrollment, so we can say you may not do well in this class because of your math class, but we don't block you from taking it if you want to take it.
That happened a couple years ago where 10th graders were taking physics, and then that grade had, the scores of those kids that would have been, you know, like score higher on the Regents actually was lower because they weren't probably developmentally ready to take it.
Right.
So you try to do the physics in 11th grade, 12th grade? 12th grade. I don't know, I'm not sure. So, because the 11th grade, you should be taking the algebra 2, the math for it. But I'm just saying they allowed that for the younger, in that, I don't think that was successful. So that's,
Physics is also a lot easier to understand when you're a little older and you have a little more life experience.
No, I know.
Actual physics.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
And I think our guidance counselors do a good job of having those conversations with students, right? But we have very determined students who say, no, I'm gonna take it, right? And I'll show you that in our AP slides. You know, we had students who didn't even enroll in courses because they weren't offered and took AP exams. You know, so it's hard sometimes to have those conversations and to say, you know, you may not do well in physics because you didn't do well here, but you know, sometimes I think that advice is taken and students, you know, don't end up taking them, and then other times they are, you know, pretty set on wanting to do it and they do it.
They challenge themselves.
And I think that the rigor of our advanced courses and our honors courses is something that administration is looking at. I think we've talked about what, you know, in preparation for these end or higher level courses, you know, what is the difference in our teaching in a 9th grade regular and a 9th grade honors? What's our difference in a course sequencing for a student that's going to end up in advanced courses, you know, and do we continue the same practices that we've continued where everything is completely open enrollment? Like, you know, so I mean, those are things that can all be looked at by administration. You know,
They also can retake it if they want, to try to get a
Their
higher
regents,
grade,
absolutely.
correct?
Yep. Absolutely.
My daughter.
I mean, the kids that graduated, no, but
Well, yeah.
other students absolutely. Our physics kids probably aren't coming back to retake.
Why are the numbers so low, especially with chemistry, physics,
That's what,
and living environment? Why is that? Why are
There's
those
only 60 kids.
lower than they have been in the past?
So I have the data from last year, and I can tell you how many kids were enrolled in those courses last year. So chemistry was 33. Earth science was 71, and living environment was 63. So I'd have to go back further, but from last year, they're pretty consistent.
And you have a
So
couple, that bubble group's in there though, right? There's a group of 100 kids or
That's
something?
7th graders.
What's that?
That's the
Oh, the
7th
7th
graders.
grade.
No, but
Well, there is a higher
there's
group.
a big cohort, the
Yeah.
10th grade is
I was
large.
gonna, yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was saying, because that would,
Yeah, our 10th grade is, I think,
94. There's a
92.
92.
Yeah.
so I was thinking some of that is the turnover
shouldn't
for,
they be in some of those lower science numbers, living environment or science?
or the chemistry numbers.
Or science.
The 10th graders?
So I
they
think
just went up
This year would have mixed between probably all three, because they don't have to take them in any order anymore.
right. So
And
I
if they
think-
took it in 8th grade, then they already, by the time they're in 10th grade, are up to the chemistry, but if they didn't, then.
and they
still-
then satisfied their science credit.
And then they
have to
don't take
take
it
it.
anymore.
Right.
So those earth
satisfy the
science kids
requirement.
could be 8th graders.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a group of 8th graders in that number, yes.
Right.
Are there any 8th graders in the living environment?
That was 9th and 10th
Oh,
graders.
no, I didn't know.
No, just in the
They
earth
shouldn't be
science,
there.
just like
No, 9th and 10th
algebra.
grade are the
Yeah.
living environment.
And then, so, is there, I gotta watch what I say.
You know,
Is there a plan, or is there, I guess, a plan to, like with chemistry, to get more people passing, like a quarter of the class failed.
Right.
And like with physics, you're running a class for, and that's an expensive class. Is there a plan to increase those 6 kids up to like at least 10?
So I don't know what the enrollment looks like for physics next year. The schedule is in the process of the final stages. I don't know what the numbers look like for physics next year.
Is still being affected by the 1 year where everybody was scared that we weren't gonna have a physics teacher, and then 10th graders took physics.
Yes.
So we had this bizarre thing where everybody was like, quick, take physics, while we still have Russ Johansson, even though it was probably not a, you know, they wouldn't have had the math or this or that, but they were afraid that they weren't gonna get the physics credit. So I think some of those numbers, we've done the master schedule meetings and the course rosters, we can look at that, but I believe that's naturally has gone up.
And I think too, Kathleen, doesn't some of those kids, some of these kids will go to VOTEC and get some of those credited time,
Correct.
but not for these 4 sciences, but they'll get, don't they get a math and science?
Yes.
So I'm saying they get a credited place, not in a Regents class, because they've already done those courses.
They've satisfied your.
Satisfied, thank you. I should have looked at
No, that's
that
fine,
word.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I do, so the data's pretty fresh. You know, the teachers got their information, you know, at the end of the school year. So, you know, plans are coming into place for bridging some of those gaps, especially, you know, like I said, I think there was a huge undertaking in coming up from, you know, the 39 to the 75%. But I do know that that teacher wants better and wants more, and I'm sure is in the planning stages of what else to do. We do have consistent curriculum leads following through next year, so hopefully taking on more of that supportive role as well. You know, they were kind of just getting used to those positions. I think this year, I think Dan would agree that they're willing to like take on more responsibility with it and kind of spread their wings and what they're able to do to support their department.
I think it'll also help, but I just also want to point out that we don't have Mr. Eggleton here to help respond to some of this, so I just want to like put that out there too. Like, he may have other comments or directions with this information.
Were the regions, all of them, were they graded in-house or did they go to someplace else?
So the only ones that we were not able to score in-house were the chemistry and the physics. Everything else was scored in-house. Physics was taken to Monticello with 2 of our folks, and then the chemistry went to Manor with 2 of our folks.
Just to be aware.
Just on math and science, is that all you were asking on?
Well, all the regions.
On all the regions, and all of our regions. Those were the only 2 that we had to go outside of, you know, because you need, you can't score your own kids. And then you need at least one of the people scoring to have the certificate in that area. So, you know, we have 2 people certified to teach physics in the building, but one of them is the instructor. So we sent the instructor, the other person certified to teach physics, both to Monticello to help score. I think they had a pile, they were really the collection of Sullivan County. They had over 150 to score there. So they were part of like a scoring group that went there. And then Manor, obviously not many people, it was just, we sent 2 teachers with the chemistry exams and they had their 2 teachers and it was swamped.
So this was also the last year for the old chemistry and the old earth science. There will be new regents this next year.
Next year.
On the NGSS standards, yeah.
Did we do any tests or sample testing on those?
The field testing?
Yeah, field testing.
No.
No, but we did just we piloted a program called STEM Scopes, which is aligned with NGSS STEM science standards. We piloted last year where we got grades 5 through 10 pilot classes where they were able to get in there and do some of this. This year, we've expanded it so that they had the full curriculum support from grades 4 through 12. So they're beginning to do some of that work. I was going to say that not important, but they're going to be doing that this summer. Where they do have direct lines. That was some of the thinking with Mr. Clark, with the decision to stay with the old earth science this year, was to wait for because they did give the new one a choice. They wanted to give it and then kind of get that input so they could see what it was, how it was graded. I heard the earth science. It's a good thing we waited.
We have 19 kids sign up for physics next year.
That's wonderful.
19.
That's great.
That's just, yeah, for
physics.
physics, yeah. So that's just what happens with some of these populations.
But I think you had to cycle out, because the seniors that graduated last year seniors, 2024, those were part of the physics kids in that 10th grade thing that she was talking about. So then it's the group, there's going to be a sequence of them for a couple of years before that builds back up, because
I think we've hit it. I think
yeah,
this is
you see what I
probably the
mean?
end of it.
Like, I
Yeah.
think it's going to take
The
a
fact
couple
that we
years
have
to cycle
19
out.
now, to me, that's it. Okay.
All right, so we'll move on to the AP exams, and as Dr. Bressler said, the scores were released. So the final reports are not available to be downloaded, but Chris Carroll and I did a stealthy job today of digging through the AP system to gather some results. So again, open enrollment, there aren't prerequisites for being part of the AP classes. So human geography, which we will not be offering next school year. We had 20 kids enrolled, 20 who tested, with a 36.8% of a 3 or higher, remember APs out of 5. World history, 22 and 22 with an 81.8% pass rate, or I guess the proficiency rate of the 3 or higher. Language and composition, 41, 41, 45.2. The lit, 8 students enrolled, 7 took it. So the student that did not take the lit AP exam was a student who attended CTE and was in the Allied Health Program. She was awarded an opportunity to become a cardiac certified, because she's going for her RN, so to get the cardiac certification. So it was a pretty rigorous program she was in, that she had to test her way through. She came to Mr. Eggleton and I very concerned about her ability to really focus in both areas, and asked to not take the exam, to which we agreed. She expressed a lot of test anxiety and really wanted to focus on the test that would give her something for her career in nursing. So she did not test. Seminar, we had 12 kids in it, 12 kids take it, the 91.7, and then the Art 2 design, 5 kids enrolled, 4 took it. One of our students, as you know, was in a long-term hospitalization, so she did not take into the final project for the art class.
Again, I don't mean to harp on this, but numbers are low in 2 of those.
Right.
And why are they working on?
In the art, or are you talking about
the literature and composition, and
Means the proficiency is low.
Oh, I thought you meant the enrollment.
well, I mean, first of all, the enrollment is low. You have 8 and 5.
Right, so this was our first year with the art class. So I guess the hope is that will grow. This was the first year of taking that on, and producing those projects. They work kind of all year long to do a final piece for the AP in art. So again, first year with it, and I think it went really well. We had students do very well in there, so I hope that enrollment will increase from there. As far as it goes with language and comp and then lit, from what we understand, a lot of the students who take language do then go to seminar instead of going to the lit.
Or they take the college level instead of main.
Right, they take the other college class offered. So there was conversation at the end of this school year about maybe some movement with that, about offering them both in 11th grade rather than one in 11th and then one in 12th. So again, kind of all up in the air, trying to figure out how that plays out, what works best for our instructors, what works best for students. You know, if we did offer them both in 11th grade, what would the enrollment look like? If we, there's just lots of questions with that. They do see a decrease from that first one to the second one, just because they opt for other options in the college selections.
And then the proficiency.
Yeah. So again, it's open enrollment, right? So we have students that want to take the class, pay for the class, and maybe didn't have, you know what I mean, didn't have really the clear understanding of the expectation of that AP world. And again, that's the conversation our guidance counselors have with students. You know, it's rigorous, it's intense. And it's like a double-edged sword, right? We don't want to.
No, but AP World History seems okay. It's the human geography that is concerning.
So, and the question for that, if I'm not mistaken, is that the age of the students that are taking that, right? So are they developmentally not ready, right?
So we decided not to offer that
Not to
next year
offer it.
because this is a second year of a score that was pretty significantly low. So, you know, into that end, when we're seeing these things, if we're not seeing them trend in a positive direction, you do have to wonder.
What grade level are they?
Geography is ninth grade,
ninth graders. So we feel that they could have a little bit more time. But we also got tight with our scheduling and course offerings and things because of that class that's coming up with 107. So it was almost like two of those things, because we didn't have these scores at that point, but we're like, oh, are they really okay with doing that class in ninth grade? And we just thought it might be a bit much, especially when we needed to use that, what could we take away to use supports in other areas.
What is seminar?
AP Seminar is an English-based, that's one Mr. Templeton teaches.
Yeah.
And they do like a research, there's a research and a seminar, but they do a similar like long-term study project.
Yeah, there's research projects, there's papers, and there are presentations involved in it.
And I think that will transfer, if you get a 3 or, a lot of this will transfer into the college first year.
It's very heavily research-based.
Yeah.
It's actually really, I think, a good class from 2 of my children have taken it, and it's a good class for learning how to compile research for papers and also to present it.
Right.
So
And what's human geography?
that's the old world.
Is that
But the
sounds
first half
like
of it-
anatomy and physiology to me.
It's the first half. It sounds like it's the first
Right.
half of the old global studies.
Basically,
So we can't just call it global studies, we have to make up a term that
Global
doesn't.
one.
Yeah.
It's global.
Yeah.
Global history one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Split in 2, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
science class.
Human geography studies globalization and how people around the world and how society interacted with business.
Okay.
So one of the other things that we'll, have conversation about is, like Mr. Priesty and I were speaking today, there used to be some summer work that was attributed to these classes too. So you kind of enrolled quickly in the summer and you had some kind of vested like buy-in, right? That you were serious about taking the class and that, kind of maybe weeded out kids that were like, no, this isn't for me, right? Because we want them to understand that there's rigor there and not just take it because their friends are taking it or because they think they're supposed to take it, but to understand the rigor behind it. So there's all these kind of open conversations about how do we help students understand the rigor that's with AP, because we want them to do well when they're in their classes, right? Especially because they're paying for them, and they're paying to test, so we want that to have value. Obviously, it has value in the credit that it provides, but we want it to have the value to transfer into college and needing that proficiency score to get that.
So do we have, I'm looking at the language and composition, that's typically, is that taken by juniors?
Yes.
So, as a kind of an English teacher, I would think that we should be looking at the 9th and 10th grade rigor and our 9th and 10th grade English classes to see what is happening there to build on what's supposed to happen in the language and composition. Because it's in a very intensive course, having taught it, and if you don't have at least your top kids in 9th and 10th grade getting exposed to some of those skills that's required, you're going to see scores like that.
So we had created a couple years ago that 9th and 10th grade honors, but that was a question that that Mr. Priesty and I probably tasked building admin with was, what is different about a 9th grade class and a 9th grade honors class?
Right.
The reading,
Reading should be.
Nobody really wants to hear that it's just more work. What is the work about? The reading, the writing, what is done. We would want to see a noticeable difference going from one classroom to the
Oh,
other.
absolutely, you should,
And
if it's happening.
Right.
So that's something that I know they
Because I
had an
think-
eye on this year, but we're really kind of moving forward.
Because I think you get to see the skills would be more enhanced by the time they walk in the door in September, if they're getting that at 9th and 10th grade.
Correct.
And you can see those scores go up. Because they can't do it in a year. If they haven't really had it much, you know, in 9th and 10th grade, at least some exposure, so.
And then the next slide is also AP exams. So these are not courses that were offered, but we did have students test, pay to test. Most notably because they're working towards capstone projects, they're working towards seals. Mr. Lieberman was one of our students who took some.
Oh, you're right now.
Some AP
those.
tests. So the computer and science principles, there's some kind of hang up with those scores, so they're not currently available. We actually had 2 students take psychology. The one student is homeschooled, but he took the test on our campus. His results don't come to us, so it's just listed as 1 up there. Unfortunately, the student who took it did not receive a 3 or higher. But in statistics, comparative, macro, and pre-calculus, all the students that took those exams received the 3 or higher. In fact, in 2 cases, received a 5, which is pretty cool. Did you have a question? Yeah.
I heard there was an AP biology class offered
This year coming?
this year, was there?
No.
We were studying during softball. All right, never mind then.
No, there was no AP biology. So now there's 2 slides. This slide was not in the presentation that you were given yesterday or the night before, whichever it was. So I gave 2 graduation statistics that are important. So this is the cohort. So these are the students that entered 9th grade at the same time, so the cohort. This is like more like what the state, I guess, looks at and kind of uses in some things. So the cohort for this year had 82 students enrolled, 74 of them graduated, with a 90.2% for the cohort. So let's talk about those 8 students. So 8 students that entered as 9th graders did not graduate. So 3 of those students are still currently enrolled at Sullivan West Central School and are expected to graduate next year. 1 is a dropout, and we have received verification from a GED program in Monticello asking us for information. So they are currently enrolled in a GED program in Monticello. 3 are just true dropouts, and 1 of them is deceased, unfortunately. So that's where those 8 students went from this cohort. The next slide talks about the graduation totals for the students that were enrolled September 1 of 2024 to the end in June of 2025. So this rate is different. So there were 78 students, 75 of them graduated. That rate is 96.1. Okay, so 2 of them graduated with advanced regions with honors, 21 with the advanced regions, 50 with a regents diploma, 2 with local diplomas, and 0 with non-diploma credit. 22 of our regents diplomas are the CDOS as well from our CTE kiddos. 10 students earned the seal of biliteracy this year. 15 students earned the seal of civic readiness. We expect those numbers to increase now that we have a much better handle on tracking the requirements for those things. There's a plan with guidance and how we can input that into eSchool so that it can be seen like where a student is, what else they need in order to achieve those seals. So we do expect that number to increase now that we kind of have a better handle on things. So if we talk about the students who did not graduate, so it says 4 because 1 transferred to a school in Connecticut. So I didn't count them in the enrolled because they enrolled in another school in Connecticut, so they're not ours anymore. 2 were from last year's cohort, and 1 came intermittently, and then never came back despite our greatest efforts. One stopped coming in November, like cold turkey. And then one final student refused vaccinations and then ultimately dropped out. So we tried there's a lot of efforts that go into getting kids to come to school, to get them everything they need to graduate. We are picking kids up, we are dropping kids off, we are feeding them, we are bribing them, we're doing everything we can to reach those students that at times are unreachable. But those are just two different percentages to look at. And then just some takeaways and some next steps, kind of what are we going to do with this, just to kind of start off. I think it's important to note that we had 100% attendance for our regions. Looking at last year's information, that was not the case. So we did a really good job this year of students. We were in there like right away, who is not here, and we were hunting them down. Kids, we were dragging a couple out of bed to get them there. Which was fine, we enjoyed doing it. So we did have everyone who we expected to take the exam took the exam. So that we counted as a big success. I'm going to begin to look at the region's data with a 3 to 5 year lens. Again, looking at kind of cohorts of kids and how they test as a whole, and then looking at the individual tests as well. We offered, I don't know if anybody has high schoolers that's on the board, but we did offer regions prep sessions. So now we need to ask the question of did we offer enough? How well attended were they? Is there something more we can do to get students in to kind of prep them before these exams? A lot of these exams, we had like 10 days from the end of the school year to that exam, which in a teenage world is like years, right? So where they were not receiving direct instruction, they weren't on the structured school day. So that's a lot of time. So if there's more we can do about offering things in the meantime, transportation tends to be a little bit of a hiccup, but if we could figure something out to get students that instruction in those 10 days where there's that lag, where they're not seeing their teachers. And then, the hope is to try to, the consistent grade level leaders, every grade level leader that we had last year is coming back for that position. So that's nice too. We'll have consistent people in those spaces to help support their departments. We'd like to use a more diagnostic approach for the AIS opportunities at the middle and high school. So I have an elementary brain. I came from an elementary building. So AIS in my world just means something different than I think our staff at the middle school and high school has been exposed to. So what more can we do to help them understand that, an AIS class should be rescuing some of those skills that our students don't have, rather than just like another opportunity for students to complete homework or complete incomplete class assignments. Like we really want to kind of focus on like some small group instruction for those students that have those gaps, like they do at the elementary level. And then just some goals for Mr. Eggleton and myself. We're looking at regions with a proficiency level less than the 85%. We'd like to see that increase by 5%. If it was greater than the 85%, we'll push for an increase of 3%. And then when looking at the mastery level, same thing, anything 85 or less, we're gonna hope for at least 5% more. And then the greater than 85 by 3. And then of course, if we are, at the 95 or greater, we're hoping just to maintain students there.
I have a question that's not kind of related, but not really.
I'm only answering questions related to it. No, I'm just kidding. Of course.
So you're 8th graders?
Yes.
So if they didn't pass a core class, do they go to 9th grade in that core? Or do they repeat it in 8th grade?
So some of those students are currently enrolled in the summer program to recoup those credits.
Okay.
And then I believe, depending on what classes and how many, makes the determination of whether we move them with that 9th grade cohort or whether we keep them.
And it probably requires a parental consent, right?
Right. I don't think we typically want to keep them, but, you know, it's that understanding that like they miss some valuable time. You know, we have students that miss significant numbers of days, and unfortunately, you just can't make that up, you know, by bringing up a test score. You know what I mean? It's time, it's seat time, so that's really hard. But like I said, those students are enrolled in the summer program in order to try to recoup some of those credits and move them forward with that cohort. So it's probably a mixed bag of students that, you know, depending on the situation and depending on, you know, why they were out or what they missed, you know, and which course they didn't do well in, whether or not they move or they stay. But rarely do they stay.
Right. Because I think that's an area that probably all schools can look at. Like, look at their ninth graders, and if they're struggling, were they struggling in 6th, 7th, and 8th?
Oh.
And what did we do to help them? And if we aren't doing enough, then we're going to get the dropout numbers we have because they're just going to give up. So recovering some of those skills, I think, are really important.
Right.
And because we're small enough, I think it would be easier to track some of those kids to see, like, how badly are they struggling in 7th grade and 8th grade.
So it's interesting, actually. I'm just going to bring up that one. We did talk about core cohort for them to be, I said to them, you know, like the 9th grade this year, that's their cohort. I said, how many kids are going from 9th grade to 10th grade with the allotted credits?
Right.
And, so
And I did pull that with the help of Miss Gardner. You know, just to kind of look at like what, you know, so we were 90.2 with that cohort this year, and like what does that look like? So it is higher in the years to come, but again, things happen, right? You lose kids kind of as you move along and as gaps widen. But I think one of the biggest things we're struggling with, I think, at the middle school and high school, and it's everywhere, is the attendance, right? So it's really difficult, you know, when a student isn't coming to school, and you know, we're using our resources. You know, we're making the contact, we're having conversations with parents, we're doing all those levels of intervention. At times, we're then reaching out to the county to ask for support, you know, through CPS, and sometimes that works, sometimes that's, you know, a dead end as well. So it's really important, I think, to like, not only get them in, but like you said, to look at those trends. If they were struggling all along, like what was missing, which I think being a small school, like AIS is really not a thing at a secondary level in many other districts. So I think it's really that opportunity to kind of continue with intervention for students at the secondary level. Any other questions?
Did we really have kids taking the Regents in the auditorium?
We really did. So what happened is the construction began at the middle school and high school in the library and library and cafeteria. Right. So when that construction started, the cafeteria was the space that we used for the Regents exams. So in order to have a space that large with air conditioning, the auditorium was our option.
Because it just seems like a desk is helpful.
It seems like a what?
A desk is helpful for taking your test. So
They did have desks.
They did have desks.
Yeah, no, we had desks. Oh, you should have seen it. It was beautiful.
They had desks.
So we had, we can fit approximately 65 desks on the stage
I was
and
told
in the
this
pit.
differently. I was told the kids are taking the Regents in the auditorium.
Oh.
as though
Meaning
were
like they're sitting
Like
in
they're on their
the-
laps.
Yeah.
So they
Well,
were in the
because
auditorium, but
honestly,
they were
because
at desks.
I've kind of questioned why study halls are there. So it sounded like kind of a continuation of that. So,
No, they did have desks. We had desks
Okay.
on the stage
All right.
and then in the pit.
okay.
I might have a picture on my phone. Yeah. So yeah,
I thought it was better, yeah. I took 5 Regents this year, and I thought it was better than other years in the cafeteria.
See, a lot of kids said that. A lot of kids said they
I did
prefer
hear
the
that,
auditorium. The lighting was like a little more of a
Yeah,
mood.
also because you're kind of facing that curtain, you're not like distracted or, you know, by.
Yeah, we had to get fancy. So when we set up the space, we had students kind of facing out from the stage, but then we realized that they could see down into the pit, so they could see desks in front of them. So at the last minute, we all scrambled to whip the desks around so that they were facing that back curtain. But
And nobody was on an angle at all? There were no desks on the ramps?
So there were a couple desks on the ramps, but we put them like kind of on like where it was flat. And it was one of our exams that was ridiculously large. It was Algebra 1. and global. Those were big groups of students. But you have to remember too, not 89 students were in the auditorium. So kids with test mods and accommodations are pulled out. So from the 89, we probably had between 25 and 30 students that were pulled out to separate rooms, separate locations, different proctors, those types of things for their modifications. So there were many people who expressed liking the auditorium, that, you know, it was and it was nice management-wise, creating a secure testing space, because anybody who entered that threshold there had cell phones confiscated, went through like the threshold to get into the testing center, and that allowed us the ability to kind of have the students that were just there, whether it was prepping or there because they needed transportation in the morning but they didn't have an afternoon test, to kind of have a little bit of free reign down in the middle school wing with supervision, and it wasn't kind of mixing those two things. So pros and cons. Next year we'll have to decide whether we stick with the auditorium or if we go back to the cafeteria and library. But yeah, they were in there because our spaces were too limited.
Can I just ask one question? How did, I think it was the first AP test, there was a little bit of a controversy. How did that ever turn out?
So that student did not receive a score from AP.
And how did the rest of the class make out for that?
The rest of the class was not affected. So based on the report that we gave and their investigation, which was pretty minimal, just some follow-up questions for Christine, Carol, and myself, the only impact was to that one student, and that test score did not count. Like, we received no report of a test even being given to that student, and they deemed that the rest of the test was secure and those students didn't have any issue, fortunately.
Could you send us the updated?
Of course, yes.
Because the one we have doesn't have the efficiencies.
Yep.
Because they came out today, that's why.
Oh,
They were hot off the press.
okay.
Hot off the presses, so we can send up the, I'm updating.
I don't even think are they available on your AP portal?
Yeah.
They were?
I saw them.
Okay.
Some of the grades came out on the 7th.
Yeah, some of them were a little further behind, but everything but that one principal's class.
Yeah, I had most of mine by 8 a.m.
Yeah, it was early on the 7th.
Online makes a difference.
Huh?
Online makes a difference. It used to be August when we had those scores.
Yeah. Yeah, huge difference.
Well, thank you, Ms. Moots, for the presentation, for all the work you did in administering the Regents with the team. So we appreciate your leadership and your thoughtfulness, because I think everyone here would agree that we haven't had a really healthy conversation like this in a couple of years. And I think this is excellent, you know.
And if there's something, that you want to know more about, or, in the future, presentation like this, if you'd like to see, I would have liked to have given you the actual number of students for those, for the AP exams, but again, when I was going through it today, I just didn't have time to count out the students. But I would, anything else that you're like, oh, it would be really nice to know this, or look at it with this lens, like, I'd be happy to, work with the team to get the data and try to give that to you, because I think it's important,
And guys, is there any plans to offer the AP buyout next year?
I do not believe that is on the schedule for next year.
I hate to leave, but Mr. Albauer is disappointed.
No,
I want to say year one with Mr. Eggleston, Ms. Moots, you guys are doing great work, and I'm excited to see that you have a goal of increasing mastery, increasing proficiency, looking into these higher level courses, and looking at the course offerings. So I'm sure it's on everyone's radar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Parisi.
Good evening, everyone. This summer, our science teachers will begin professional development using our STEM Scopes, which is our new NGSS-aligned curriculum support tool. Our instructional coach and instructional tech facilitator both were trained on the program last year, and they play a key role this year, particularly with grades 5 through 8. Planning next year's curriculum lead meetings and instructional rounds are underway. Our administrators are receiving those calendar invites now for the year as we plan, continue to plan for alignment and professional growth for the 25-26 school year. Personnel, congratulations again to Ms. Buck, Mr. Vogler, who officially began July 1st. Our administrative team is actively focused on summer hiring to ensure all positions are filled for a strong start for this coming school year. We still have a middle school, high school technology teacher, dual certified social studies 7 through 12, and special ed teacher, dual certified birth through 2 and special ed teacher position. Our elementary Spanish position, elementary art leave replacement, 3-hour aide, 1-to-1 aide, our communication specialist, and our CSE typist secretary position that we're looking to still fill.
And I would just say, due to all that, we're going to discuss a possible special meeting date at the end of July.
We did one this month. Transportation, Sullivan West recently issued a district-wide summary communication to families, thanking them for the continued partnership. Families were asked to verify their contact information and transportation information and to complete a required emergency dismissal survey, which designates a drop-off location and an approved adult in the event of an unplanned dismissal. The deadline for that submission is July 18th. This effort supports student safety and a smooth start to the year. From there on, the transportation schedule, routes will be completed by August 8th this year. Dry runs will be done between the 11th and 15th. Driver feedback between the 18th and 20th. Families will check out the routes that in e-school between the 20th and 27th, make any final change requests. And then there will be a freeze between the 27th and the second week of school to allow transportation routes to settle in. And any semi-permanent or permanent changes or variances, parents or guardians should contact the main office of the school the child attends. Technology team is busy working. This summer, they're re-imaging all the laptops, getting them ready for the school year. There's going to be fiber optic cable testing happening in the secondary school this Friday. They're also replacing the high school firewall, replacing access points, and accessing older tech equipment. That's all I got.
Any questions for Dan?
What's the status of that efficiency study for the transportation?
It's going to affect what
So these routes are being used, they're using that to plan routes this year?
Using that, yeah, and it's going to be, they're prioritizing same site pickup in addition to the, they did that when they did the efficiency study, because currently there were kids crossing the road. So, yeah, that's all being put in place when they get their routes done this year.
So you're going to try to do pick up and drop off on the same side of the road?
Yeah.
Everywhere, or?
Yes, that's the plan everywhere. Last year we had some parents that were requesting changes because they didn't want to wait for the bus to move around.
So on 52, you potentially could have buses going both that way.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound efficient, but
well,
maybe safer.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, might be safer though.
It's efficient and safe.
Yeah.
Which is the goal.
Yeah.
All right, other questions for Dan? All right, I would like to propose an agenda amendment to add our oath to our student board member, and at this point, can I have a motion to amend to do that? Jackie, Katrina, all in favor? Opposed? So at this point, we are going to administer the oath of office to our new student board member, Samuel Lieberman. If you would stand and raise your right hand and read that aloud. We'll cheer you on after this.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge, according to the best of my ability, duties of the position of student school board member.
All right, there's only one meeting a month for you. All right, moving on to business and finance, consent agenda items 2 through 10. Are there any that you would like removed? I'll entertain a motion. To Danny, Jackie, Mike, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to personnel. 6. We have a consent agenda for personnel items 2 through 7, unless there's any you would like pulled.
Do I have to abstain?
Yeah, she says no.
Okay, thank you.
You can vote no, but she
Oh, I'm like, why do you need to abstain? I see now.
All right, motion for consent agenda. Kathy, Jen, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Comments from the public. Jackie. From the board? I mean public, sorry.
Still nothing.
Still nothing. Sorry.
Somebody wanted to say
Anyone want to say, anyone? Bueller? All right, Jackie, sorry. I'm just trying to move this along.
Congratulations. Welcome to the team. Welcome to the team. Congratulations to my fellow re-elected board members. I think graduation went great. I personally, really enjoyed giving my son his diploma. So thank you everyone for letting me do that. And I'm looking forward to all of this great work we're going to be doing. I'm really excited to just keep going and get our kids where they need to be. It's so funny.
Kathy.
I echo everything that Jackie just said. Welcome. Welcome, Samuel. Really liked your presentation, Moods, and I think that's something we've kind of been asking for quite a while, so we look forward to kind of delving into it even further. So, thank you.
Jude.
Welcome.
Happy summer. Mike.
Welcome, Sam. Thank you. I thought graduation was great inside. A great day for it. Again, I thank you, Ms. Moots, for the data. And I just have another question, but I'll ask you some other time about that. But again, I'm glad the construction is going well. Hopefully going well. Hopefully the windows will be done by September. And again, let's look forward to a good year.
Christy.
Welcome, Sam. I hope you bring some of the enthusiasm that you bring to the football games to the board report. It's be very exciting. Thank you, Mr. Moose. Again, I'm very happy to see percentages aren't always helpful when you don't know how many kids were in the class and how many sat for it, so you kind of can figure out how many of our kids passed and how many didn't. So I appreciate that. So I agree, graduation went flawlessly. It was very nice. So.
Brian.
Welcome, Sam. Welcome, Mike. You're gonna have fun at those meetings. Welcome, Mrs. Buck. And Jen finally got her numbers.
Yes.
Rose is getting
That's
her
what I
win.
like you said.
Yeah,
I've been asking for numbers.
We're getting there.
Because numbers make it look,
Yeah.
see, this is why I'm a math teacher. It makes it so much clearer to you, and I thank you so much. I love it. And welcome to.
She's gonna print it and put it over that.
Congratulations. Glad you're here with us. And you guys enjoy your summer. And I'm so happy with the numbers. See?
Sam, you
No,
have
I
anything you'd like to say?
Yeah,
You don't
thank
have to, if you can, if you
I
would
will.
like to.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It means a lot that I could, sit here because I've never really gone to a full board meeting. I've been here maybe for 20 minutes. So, I appreciate it and looking forward to this year. Thank you.
It'll be longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're never that short. Never. I'd just like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to lead you again. I appreciate it. And Kathy, congratulations. And Kathy and Mike, congratulations on being the Sullivan County School Board Association reps. And Brian, our state liaison. Hopefully we'll get some movement there. Julie, welcome to our team. We're really happy to have you. Sam, we look forward to your reports. They're always, the student perspective always gives us a great perspective. And I know the board appreciates that. I especially appreciate it. So it's really good to have you aboard. And I wish you all a great summer. And that's all. Oh, yes, we need to have a meeting. Special meeting in July, which I will still be caring for my family in Wisconsin, so you can schedule that around me. We'll be on. This is my first week. So what's the
I just
date?
need 5. I'm looking at the week of July 28th. Anyone be here?
I should be around.
The week of July,
it's usually
week of
the
July
weeknight
28th. Are
that
there any
would be
dates that are not good?
I'm open at the moment.
Are you open? Any dates that are not good for that week?
I have a question. Suppose you're not here and I'm not here, then who does the responsibility for the meeting? Fall to Kristen, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't
Well,
have.
I think any other board
The
member.
the board would just appoint someone to be another board member.
So since I have to be here, I'm just gonna say that Lucas is in Newsies that week, so I just have to do, it's every other night, so I'm sure there's like a night I'm free and a night I'm not. So I don't have those exact dates yet,
Okay.
but I'll let everybody.
We know there's a meeting coming that week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
if everyone could just think that and hold on until I get those dates, which should be soon.
Speaking of Newsies in the Torchburg Playhouse, Wednesdays are education discount days for you, so FYI. Plus there's a matinee. And school board members count, I would imagine. Just saying, you look in, and they don't really advertise it. I just found out today. It was $25. That's what the ticket price was. There you go. That's all I have. Anything else? Otherwise, motion to adjourn. Jackie, Katrina, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. There's pizza and cookies. Pizza and cookies.
They're probably
They were good. Not as good as cheese.
they're not peanut butter ones, so they're like, You'll want to hear the peanut butter ones.
Did we sign up?